Hello guys and welcome back to another video. This one is a lengthy one because I had many spreads to do, so I hope you enjoy. I'm updating my reading journal with the books I read in September, and as usual, we are starting by filling up my initial spreads, such as the challenges and my reading logs. But the ratings and the spreads that need the rating, I'm going to do that at the end of the video as usual, because when I'm making the reviews in the journal is when I decide which rating to give to each book, so I just know that at the end. This video came out a little late than I wanted because life happens, but I think having two reading journal videos back to back was a reward, at least for me because I love reading journal videos. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, my recent video was a reading journal setup in a traveler sized journal, and that's because this September setup is going to be the last setup I'm doing in this journal because I ran out of space. So I made a new setup in the journal that I'm going to use for the remaining 3 months of the year. So in my August reads video, I said that I was reading a young adult romantasy duet, and I asked you guys to guess what books they were because if you know me, you know that I don't read young adult or romantasy like ever. I'm just not a fantasy girly and I like my spice in books. The exception is maybe the Shatter Me series, but I started reading the first book in my vacations and I loved it. So, without further ado, the books that I read were The Dance of Thieves and The Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, which I gave 4.5 stars to the first and 4 stars to the second. I also read Pen Pal by G.T. Geisinger, which I gave 5 stars, and oh boy, I loved this book so much. It was my favorite book so far this year, so that says a lot, but I'm going to talk more about it later. I also read a lot of manhwas and mangas this month, but I don't include them in the initial spreads because I like to just count the books, but I started making collages for those in my last monthly wrap up and I really loved it. It was something that I did before I started this channel and I really enjoyed it. So if I still read them, why not include them in my reading journal? And that's what I did, and I'm still going to do that from now on. If you are just interested in the books, don't worry, I make my collages for the manhwas after the book spreads, but even if you are not into manhwas and things like that, I think it's still fun to watch the process and the collages, so it's up to you. With the reading log updated, just missing the ratings, we can move on to the last initial spread that's for my Goober reading challenge. And this month I used Dance of Thieves for the prompt more than 500 pages, which means that I get the Aster flower for the Goober bouquet, and which also means patience. This one has been a really fun challenge so far, so I hope Jashii, that's the creator of the challenge, makes another one for 2026. So for this monthly cover spread, I wanted to use the other goddess from Ikigai Papir. If you saw my August reads video, you know that I used the sun goddess stickers from Ikigai Papir as well, and she also has the moon goddess, so I wanted to use them back to back so it was noticeable that were related when I do a flip through in the future. And I thought August for the sun and September for the moon was a very good combination, so that's what I did. And I'm also switching things up this time. I've been experimenting in these last couple updates because I'm testing some spreads and see if I want to do them in my next reading journal for 2026. And since I'm going to use a traveler's size journal for October, November, and December, it was better if I try that in this journal. I'm a very consistent person in the journaling aspect. If I start doing something, I try to continue doing that for the rest of the year. But sometimes, if it's not working, you should try something different if it's not on a new journal. So I'm trying to let go of that consistency and experimenting a lot, especially because my reading journal is pretty much the journal where I'm more creative and it gives me the freedom that the bullet journal doesn't. So I'm really trying to be more experimental and see if I like the spreads I'm doing, if I should change my approach to them, and so on and so forth. And this was all to say that I'm really enjoying doing a summary of the books I read in that month on the left page, and that I'm also adding another spread to this monthly setup, but you're going to see that one in a minute. So all the materials that I'm using are going to be in the description box down below, at least all the links that I can find, but if you want something and it's not in the description, that's probably because I couldn't fit all the links down there, so you can ask me in the comments and I'll try to find it for you. But most of this stationery is from Journalsay. You can use my discount code if you want to buy from them, but they sell out really quickly for some things, so there's a chance that some of these materials are already out of stock. In this collage, I tried to really dive into the moon aesthetic, but with lighter tones that would match really well with the blue on the stickers, so a combination of cream, silver and black details works really well for that. In the left page, as I said before, I'm going to put the titles of the books that I read this month and doing it really similar to my previous monthly cover spread, so I'm making a collage for the frames to sit on. It's very easy to do this actually because you are working pretty much on the background and the frames are going to be the main focus, so I just have to make sure that the spots behind them are covered. The big moon behind the girl is actually from a PET tape from Journalsay, and every moon has so many different variations in color, so I just picked the one that would fit better with this color scheme. So now for the next spread, I'm doing a monthly reads, so that's the new edition. In the cover spread, I'm only making the frames for the books, but as I said in the beginning, I also read mangas and manhwas, and sometimes I don't love some of them, so I don't make pages for them, but I would still like them to be included in the journal somehow. So I decided to add this spread, and in here I'm putting the covers for everything that I read, even if I don't do the pages for them. After doing this spread, I actually realized that maybe I should have printed the covers a little bigger because they look a little lost on the spread, but that's the thing about experimenting. If you like the end result, you can always see what you can improve on for next time. This is also pretty much a bonus because I had spreads to spare in this journal. Even if I tried to, October wouldn't fit in here, so I had a few extra spreads to try out. And it's useful because in the traveler's journal I'm going to have extra spreads as well, since I'm only using it for 3 months. And in my next reading journal, that's going to be an 8x8 square journal from Tifosi, I'm pretty sure. I know that I have plenty of space, so I decided to include a few more spreads because they are fun to set up and I have space for them. I read mostly BL or yaoi mangas slash manhwas, and that's boys love, and yaoi is boys love but with smut. And I sometimes read the typical romances and stories, but I really enjoy the BL, so that's what I read. And actually, this month I made collages for all of them except this one, because it had so much potential to be an interesting story, but it was wasted on aggression, if you know what I mean, and that really made me angry, so I'm not making a collage for that one. But if you are curious, the title is Black Poison. And now, with the monthly spreads done, we can move on to the first book spread. And this one is for Pen Pal. The story follows Kayla. She's a widow now. She just buried her husband and now she has to continue her life on an empty house that's falling apart and with a very depressed mind. But on the day of her husband's funeral, she receives a letter from this guy named Dante that Kayla doesn't know. It was postmarked from the state penitentiary and contained a single sentence: I'll wait forever if I have to. And with nothing to lose and out of curiosity, she writes back asking what he's waiting for. And his reply was, you. Now, while all of this is unfolding, things begin to happen around the house. The doors are open when they shouldn't have, her doorbell rings and it's no one. Things are out of place, and Kayla starts to think that she's going insane. And that's when she meets Aidan, a man that she hires to help fixing the house. And that's where I'm stopping to avoid spoilers. I know that many people hated this book. I've seen the comments and I get it. This book is a psychological thriller with a non-traditional romance. I honestly love this book so much. It's my best read of 2025 so far, and that's because I was so invested in the story. Everything that I was expecting didn't happen, and I was so grateful for it because it was even better. I really loved how the author portrays grief. It was very raw and real and honestly relatable. The plot twists, oh my god, I never read a plot twist like this one before. It had me shook, like literally with my mouth wide open. I still think about this book every once in a while, and it's been a month since I read it. I was crying like a baby in the plot twist moment, and at the end, I was crying with joy. And I'm not really that sentimental, but this book really messed with my heart. Also, everyone sees love in pain and pain in love, and I think this is pretty much the whole vibe of the book. They are shown in different ways, and I know why some people hated this book. The blurb is giving a different story than the one in the actual book, but I also know that that's probably because the author wanted the reader to be expecting something else, and that something else didn't happen. I'm one of the few that loved this book, and if you happen to read this one, just go with an open mind and know that when you think everything's falling apart and it doesn't make any sense anymore, just continue because it will surprise you with the actual reason for everything that's happened in the book. This book is in my top 3 of all time. First it's Hunting Adeline, then it's Mindfuck series, and this one is the third, because for me, if it's dark but the plot is amazing, very deep and thought-provoking, I will love it. Not just because of the romance, in these books I actually prioritize the plot, and I say this as an avid dark romance reader that pretty much just enjoys love stories. I'm not a real fan of fluffy romances. I read them sometimes, but I prefer the stories of the dark romances. And this one is paranormal, is dark, and it's it's the best plot twist I ever read, in my opinion, of course. Moving on, I'm doing a spread with the Dutch door for the Dance of Thieves duet. The left page is for Dance of Thieves and the right is for Vow of Thieves. So I only can talk about the first book because the second is the follow-up for the first, and I don't want to give you any spoilers because the major plot twists happen on the Vow of Thieves. So the story begins when the patriarch of the Ballinger Empire dies and his son Jace, or Jaze, I don't really know how to pronounce it, becomes its new leader. And even though they aren't a kingdom on itself, they are respected by the nearby kingdoms because of their strength. But as a new young queen takes charge, a new era is set in motion by her, which makes her the target of the dynasty's resentment and anger. At the same time, Kazi, a legendary former street thief, is sent by the queen to investigate transgressions against new settlements, which brings her to the lands of the Ballingers. And when she crosses paths with Jace, by chance and by many events that spiral out of their control, she realizes that Jace is not the man that everyone told her about. And they continue to play a cat and mouse game of false moves and motives in order to fulfill their own secret missions. This duet is YA and it doesn't have any spice, which is weird for me because I read mostly books that have spice, but this one was so good. And even though it's young adult, it doesn't shy away from the descriptions of some injuries and gore. It's nothing major and it's more on the second book that happens, but for me it had a very solid story and every question that we had on the first book was answered on the second. I actually cried while reading the second book because of so many situations that were unfair towards Kazi, and that really brought my anger to the surface, which is good because when a book does that, it's because you are invested on the story and the characters. I also loved Jace. He was such a good male main character and a green flag all the way. And Kazi, of course, was my favorite. She was the most intelligent and mature, and this story was overall very good, full of plot twists and world building, and things that were really well explained and in a very easy way, which is awesome for me because I struggle with fantasy books because the world building sometimes it's too much and I get lost, but this one is quite simple to understand. These books also had my favorite book trope, that is enemies to lovers. Nothing can beat this one, it is so good and the best stories come out of this trope, at least for me. I also had so much fun reading about the intrigue and all the points of view from all the different characters, not only the main ones, and I really liked that even the side characters had a solid backstory, which explained how they approach the different situations that come up. These books are written in a dual point of view, so from Kazi's and Jace's points of view, which I love. I really like reading from the other side perspective and see how they view the characters and the story in a different way. I chose two quotes, one for each book, and ones that I chose pretty much fit the story of each book, and if you read them, you know why I chose these ones. So for Dance of Thieves, I chose: choose your words carefully. even the words you think, because they become seeds and seeds become history. And for Vow of Thieves, I chose it doesn't always take an army to save the world. Sometimes it takes just one person who won't let evil win. The books had so many good quotes, but I chose only these two because they fit the story quite well. And also, if you like riddles, Kazi has many for you. I printed the map of Hell's Mouth, that's a region that's important in the book, and I thought of putting it in a tip in on the side of the spread because I didn't have space for it in the actual spread, so I just put some tape on both sides to make sure it stays in place and still flips out, and then I just decorated a little bit of the back side, that's the one visible when I first flipped to this spread, and I just matched the decoration that was already on the page to blend a little more. And with that, the book spreads are done, so we can continue to my manga/manhwa pages. For the first one, we have Love at First Fright. Also, I'm sorry in advance for pronouncing the names totally wrong, but bear with me please. So, Yeo Young-sung, the one with the black shirt, has always been popular, too popular. With his striking looks, he attracts attention from everyone, regardless of age or gender. But constant gossip and misunderstandings have left him deeply distrustful of people. The last thing he needs is to be popular amongst the ghosts too. After moving into a new home for a job, Hyo-sung finds himself tormented by paranormal activity night after night. One evening, while cowering outside of his own apartment, he meets Seon Tae-jong, a passing office worker who, much to Hyo-sung's surprise, can see and talk to ghosts. Desperate for some peace, Hyo-sung enlists Tae-jong's help to rid his house of its unwelcome ghosts. As the two work together, an unexpected and curious friendship begins to take shape. But is there more to Tae-jong than meets the eye? Well, that's for sure. I didn't expect this story to be so emotional, but it really touched my heart with some of the ghost stories, and the relationship between them was actually healthy and not toxic at all, at least for what I remember. I really liked both of them, and it was a really cute and fun read, but it also shows that sometimes humans are scarier than ghosts, and the plot shows you why. If you want a more spooky story for Halloween, this one is perfect. I didn't know which aesthetic to go for this collage, so I went with my default, that is beige and brown, but with some purple details here and there that I think complement the guy's sticker quite nicely. I still have to come up with a rating system for my mangas and manhwas, so if you have any suggestion, please let me know in the comments. For the next manhwa, we have A Room Without Window, and this is set in a post-apocalyptic zombie world. So, Song Jin-tae, the one that has white hair, was walking around with his boyfriend when suddenly everything went dark. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself chained to the wall in a room with no windows. And worse, there was someone he didn't know with him. I really loved the twists in this story, and you begin the story thinking that this guy is doing something really bad to Song Jin-tae, but actually it has a pretty big twist, and not everything is what it seems to be. The story has very dark themes like SA, assault, and things like that, but the main characters are actually green flags, but there are also many bad guys in there. This story actually leans more into the morals of the society on these post apocalyptic worlds than actually the zombies, but they are important as well. I chose mountains to be the background of the collage because they are also important in the story, and I had the perfect mountains for that, so I used them. And honestly, I loved this story, it was very interesting, and I couldn't put it down. I had to know what was going on. I also really liked the art on this manhwa and the chibi designs of them, so I also put a small example on the bottom of the collage, which is fun because they are literally doing the same pose. And if you like stories with zombies, post apocalyptic society, fights, and darker themes, this one is very good, but the romance for me was also really nice. I didn't have that many stationery that would match this collage, so I used the circles again from Ikigai Papir, this time in blue tones, to add something else to this collage. And I love using them because it adds detail without being too much, and it's an easy way to decorate very quickly. I'm trying to get all the colors of the circles and the alphabet sticker sheets as well, so as soon as she has more stock of them, I will get them. Moving on, we have a manga. This one is called Muri Marriage. The unfortunate chain began when a man and a woman from conflicting villages fell in love with each other. Now, without falling in love, Momoki Shirakawa, the one that has lighter hair, became the bride of Shikage Kurotaki in the neighboring village overnight. Overwhelmed by the pressure from both families, he accepts his destiny and wears white innocence. But his newly married life inevitably starts while being stuck with the terrible Shikage. So, as the title implies, this is a forced marriage between these two guys. They never met before and they have a 7-year age gap between them. Momoki, the bride, is the older guy and Shikage is younger. And this all begins because their families are worried that if they don't marry, the curse that started years ago is going to fall on the village, and it's going to bring everyone with it. So, without any solution to this problem, they have to accept. But the thing is, the wedding is only accepted once they do their duty, if you know what I mean, which is very hard because they don't like each other and they don't even have a true conversation, much else being with one another in bed. This story was a very fun read, it's very light and nothing special, but it's cute nonetheless, and come on, from the start, Shikage is head over heels in love with Momoki. I wanted the lettering to have a transparent background, so I used the same sticker book that I used the mountains from in the previous collage, and I used the tiny empty space above some of the designs to write the title. The gold marker that I'm using is from Ohuhu, and I used the bullet nib to do the lettering. I think it looks very good, and to make it pop a little more, I did a black outline on the lettering, and I think it looks very nice. On the right page, I'm doing a collage for the manhwa Greed, and oh boy, if you want a romance, don't read this one. This is a psychological short story, and when I say psychological, I say it with meaning, because it's quite dark but poetic at the same time. I didn't love the story, but the art is wonderful, it's really beautiful, and I think the story is really interesting. I can't say much because otherwise I'm going to spoil everything, but just know that this is basically don't touch the untouchable or you'll get the consequences. And this is the basis of greed. If you are greedy, it won't end well for you. This also contains a mafia trope and it's told from a very interesting perspective. If you are curious, just read it, but be aware because it's really dark, not in the physical way, but really in the psychological. For me, it's almost like a thriller because you don't quite understand what's happening until it happens, quite literally, but again, it's really interesting. I used these grayish flower stickers for the background and then I used gold accents on the washi tape to complement the colors of the manhwa stickers since they are in the brownish and yellow tones, and I didn't want to repeat the beige and brown aesthetic like the first manhwa, so I did this one instead, which I love. And now for the last manhwa, we are doing a collage for Perfect Buddy. Seo Yosu, the one that has blue hair, is sure of one thing: people are scum and they will always disappoint you. Sure enough, at his very first company dinner after he's transferred to a new department, he finds his co-worker, the obnoxiously upbeat Bae Kyung-shan, performing an unsavory deed in the men's bathroom. And as much as Yoon-soo would like to avoid Young-shan from that point on, Young-shan seems intent on not letting him out of this sight. This is an office romance and they are so cute. This is a hate to love from one of the parts involved, but also a friends with benefits to lovers type of situation. It's really fun and the plot outside of the romance it's really interesting as well. And in the beginning it may be a little slow, but it's very nice after those initial chapters. The story also brings to light some situations that occur more often than not on some companies and offices, and it's really interesting to dive deeper into that. But the romance is what sold me and it's very good. It's green flags all the way, so it's my recommendation to you if you read BL and manhwas. Again, I didn't have many stationery that would go well with this story, so I used this PET tape from Journalsay, I think. It has these pretty landscapes of a city, and it's actually Paris, but I only cut out the landscapes that weren't so obvious, and I put them all around the guys, which made a cute background. And to fill in the blank spaces, I used the square stickers in beige, brown, and green tones here and there. This time for the title, instead of making it in a font that I wanted or using stickers, I tried to recreate the actual title on the cover of the manhwa. I used this Pentel Fure Touch sign pen in this dark brown, and I said this before, but it's my favorite pen to use when doing small lettering. It has this very firm tip which allows me to control very easily the strokes. I tried to put a green drop shadow on the first word, but I didn't like it, so I did it again in just brown. And now with the spreads done, I only have a handful of spreads left on this journal, so maybe I will use them for something, I still don't know. But the last thing that I have to do is go back to the beginning of the journal and complete the spreads that needed the ratings of the books. It's time for the final flip through of the final setup on this channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give a like, subscribe, and now give a hype. That's a new thing on YouTube. And if you made it till the end, leave a letter emoji on the comments to let me know and to honor my love for Pen Pal. But also tell me which spread or page was your favorite, if you read any of these books and your opinion on them, and any recommendations because I can always add more books to my maybe next. I hope you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!